Hey everyone, Dave from Blue Bears Games here, and welcome back to $20 budget decks. Today's episode, we're gonna go over a pet project of mine. This is a deck that I've been trying to get together and put into a budget form for a while now. I call it Turbo Gates. This one doesn't conform to the normal rules that I usually have. We know the rules are, three rares, one special rare that could be a full rare or a regular rare or a mythic. This one actually is a little different just because I couldn't find a way to make this deck under the confines of my normal rules, and I have been wanting to put this deck together forever, especially for a budget deck. So we're gonna go ahead and look at it, but this is my Alt-Win Turbo Dex version. So turbo, meaning we're trying to power out as many lands and make the deck go as quickly as possible. Well, this is Turbo Gates. So the only issue with Gates is they always come into play tapped. So we're trying to power them out as quickly as possible. So we start with open the gates, search your library for a land or a gate card, put it in your hand. We're trying to get as many of the gates into my hand as possible, or into play as possible. And the reason for that is our win condition is an alt win condition, and I will go over that in a little bit. So we got a playset of Open the Gates so that we can try to get them, and we also have a playset of Gate Creeper Vine for the same effect. The difference between the two obviously is one's a spell, one's a creature, and this actually helps keep you alive longer. It kind of is a body to throw in place while you're trying to build up your combo. The next one, and the reason why this deck actually became possible is because of this card and Ravnica Allegiance in general, because Open the Gates and Circuitous Route itself, they both were printed recently, and that's the only reason I was able to actually kind of make this a budget deck and make it so I could put it out there for Geekfest. This one searches your library for 2 basic land cards and or gate cards and put them on the battlefield tapped. So this kind of helps power out those gates. They come into play tapped because of the card anyway, so it's actually it works with gates, especially that, coming into play tapped, since that slows you down a little bit. Put 2 of them in there. I didn't have 4. It didn't open a whole lot of my Ravnica stuff yet, so 2 of them go in there. Now, the protection suite of this deck, it's kind of lacking. It is what it is. Basically, it's a whole lot of fog effects. So, your playset of fogs, your playset of commencement of festivities, your playset of haze of pollen. Now, the reason why haze of pollen instead of just a regular old effect, if you're actually in need of finding a card in some way, shape, or form, it cycles. You're not really going to use it for that, but it's a just in case of emergency kind of thing. Defend the Hearth. Like I said, it's a lot of fog effects. This is your defense. It's a slower deck, but it's a methodical deck. So, the reason again why I could make the deck was because of the Ravnica Allegiance and the other set that goes with it. Growth Spiral helps you draw a card. I mean, we are in blue for all intents and purposes. This is a blue-green deck, so you should be able to draw some cards. So to help you get to the stuff you need faster, it draws a card and puts a land from your hand into play. That's for the Open the Gates, so that you can possibly put a second gate into play, or even, depending on what turn it is and how many of these you have in your hand, a third. So I put in a playset of Growth Spirals. We're in blue. You want to draw the cards you need. You got to get them faster. Divination's the cheapest one to get you 2 cards. I don't like that it's a sorcery, but it is what it is. Remember, these are budget decks. I don't have the ability to put in the expensive cards, so Divination was the choice. Play set of those. Guild Summit. This is pretty much the main engine of the deck to get you to the combo and complete it. So when it enters play, you can tap gates and draw cards, but you can also, whenever a gate enters the battlefield, you draw a card. Remember, we're powering out gates left and right, so it'll fill your hand up quickly. That's what the Growth Spirals were for, so that you could take the cards that you have in your hand and put them into play without having to worry about it. So, 2 of those. The Elixir of Immortality is kind of like my go-to for decks that are like fog effect style decks. The reason for that is you gain life, so it kind of helps keep you alive, but it shuffles them back in so that if you're drawing a whole lot of cards, you can keep fogging until you get the wind down. This deck specifically, it's not really combo. It's kind of like it's a weird one. I don't really know what to call this. It's not combo. It's kind of a alt win is what I would call it. Here is your alt win. Now let me show you that. It's called Maze's End. It enters tapped. It adds a colorless. We don't care about any of that. Its ability that says 3 tap, return it to your hand, search your library for a gate card and put it on the battlefield. Then shuffle library. If you control 10 or more gates with different names, you win the game. That's the condition that we're going with. We're trying to do that, and I put 2 in here. Normally I do like 3 rares and a special edition. For this deck I went with the 2 mythics, one of them foil. I had some promos from, I guess it was the pre-release for the set that it came in, and I have looked at these cards for years and years, apparently from April of 2013. That's how long I've been looking at this card to make a deck to sell as a budget deck. It's been a while. So these are the only non-common uncommons in the deck. I'm not looking for value out of this one as far as monetarily. This is a pet project. I wanted to make this deck and see if it works. And I want to tell somebody I'm going to be more excited to talk to people about this deck than any other deck. Now, normally, the land is basics and a couple of other things. With this deck, we're going to actually have a little conversation. You have to have 10 different gates out. Realize that there are only 11 actual differently named gates in the game. All of them are, represented here. I have the Gateway Plaza in case that's the way that I have to do it, and I can't find the one that I need. Gateway Plaza is the 11th. There are not one copy of each gate in here. I actually spread it out to where it's one copy of the ones that the colors don't match the deck, and then if they do match the deck, I put 2 in. So there's 2 Selesnya gates, 2 Izzet gates, 2 Grill gates, and 2 Golgaris, 2 Dimir, because all those have blue or green, but not blue and green. The only gate that there's 4 of in the deck is the Simic, because that is the colors of the deck. I could have expanded out to another color, but again, this is budget decks. These are not like $300 decks where I can power out some things and go from there. I wanted this to just be a budget version of an alt-win condition deck that you can have fun with. This isn't really that competitive per se, but it can be if you do it right. So it can be upgraded. The upgrades obviously are fetch lands, but we're not going to do that. It's just too expensive to do that. It's just, again, a fun deck. So, that is the Turbo Gates deck that I put together for Geekfest this year. Again, it's been a pet project of mine. I've been wanting to put this deck together for a long time, and thanks to Guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Allegiance, I was finally able to do it because the cards that were presented to me beforehand were not good enough to do so. So there you go. That's Turbo Gates. As always, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put them below. Go ahead and like my video if you liked it. If you didn't, go ahead and send me a message. Let me know what I can do differently. Subscribe to my channel. I always like to have new subscribers. And have a good day.